Почнемо. В нас вже стандартний місячний репорт нашої ком'юніті. Цього разу в нас буде Антоніо, незвичний спікер. Більш того, це буде незвичний формат, новий формат, буде живе спілкування. Має бути цікаво, але про це трохи згодом. Програма у нас стандартна, наші новини, наш спікер, і далі поговоримо про хто в кого які справи. В нас з'явився новий партнер. Це німецька організація ГІС, яка більше 40 програм проінвестувала в Україні. Зараз є така програма ЮЛІТ, яка звернулася до нас, і організатори з проханням надати професійну допомогу саме по XR-тематиці. Ми готуємо першу лекцію для них. Це програма для лідерів громад середніх до 50 тисяч людей. Зараз німці бачать можливості різні по цифровізації таких громад, і нас запросили поділитися інформацією, як може допомогти імерсивні технології таким громадам. От ми працюємо з ними для того, щоб це була максимально кваліфікована допомога. І далі ми сподіваємось, вже буде і інші проекти будуть, співпраця буде розвиватись. Також нагадую, що в нас відбувся переїзд в WhatsApp, хто раптом ще не знає. В Телеграмі будемо писати, продовжувати новини, що щось десь відбудеться, але саме спілкування буде в WhatsApp. Також ми перенесли все в один чат для зручності. Тепер тільки один чат в WhatsApp і все буде в ньому. Також в нас ще один партнер додається, про нього трохи згодом. Якщо у вас є ідеї або є бажання когось долучити, чи є потреба в якомусь конкретному партнері, щоб він долучився до нашої ком'юніті, будь ласка, скажіть про це або в загальному чаті, або в приватних повідомленнях. Ми будемо працювати, щоб долучити саме тих партнерів, які вам цікаві. Ще одна новина: ми плануємо запускати YouTube канал. Там будуть і подкасти, і інтерв'ю, і вебінари, тобто буде власний контент. Ми будемо також раді вашому контенту на нашому каналі. І у всіх мемберів ком'юніті є можливість обрати зараз для себе один формат, в якому ви би хотіли, щоб ми для вас і з вами створили цей контент. Тобто це може бути інтерв'ю, яке ми у вас візьмемо, це може бути подкаст на тему, яку ми разом оберемо, або, можливо, ви хочете провести вебінар. Ми будемо цей контент промоутити. Цей канал, в принципі, створений для того, щоб вас промоутити. Тому звертайтесь, скажіть, будемо працювати разом, і ми будемо працювати, так би мовити, на вас. Вам треба обрати один з 3 форматів. Також нагадую, що ще збирається ініціативна група для подачі на гранти. Хто хоче, не пропустіть. Це можливість, яка обмежена в часі, тому долучайтесь, ми на вас чекаємо і далі починаємо працювати. І хто долучиться, будуть приймати участь в тих чи інших грантах. Так, чи є в нас сьогодні Сергій? Сергій не прийшов. Він там дуже зайнятий. Він мав би розказати про цю конференцію, але так як він зайнятий, то я розкажу коротко. На жаль, через різні умови долучилось небагато людей до конференції, і, в принципі, ми це в останній момент робили, тому в цьому році поки що в нас не вийшло організувати корнер на цій конференції, але ми на наступному тижні вже зустрічаємося з організаторами АВЕ.
У нас вийшло, але в нас не вистачило часу.
Ну, скажімо так, ми зустрічаємося вже з ними максимально в повному складі, щоб домовитись про довгострокову співпрацю, щоб це було заздалегідь, щоб це було на всі їх конференції і максимально організовано. Тобто ми зрозуміли, що за там пару тижнів ми робити не будемо, ми будемо робити ну, як треба, заздалегідь і максимально офіційно. Так що ми з ними зустрічаємося і будемо домовлятися. А також у Сергія була цікава новина, вони виграли грант військовий, їх штучний інтелект переміг в якихось там натівських змаганнях, абсолютно вони перше місце зайняли по дронам з самонаведенням, тобто досить круті результати. Ну, Сергій якось, коли в нього буде час, він там зараз дуже перенавантажений, прийде, сам розкаже про їх досягнення. Ось. І зараз передаю слово Марії. Марія.
Так, дякую. Дякую. І переходимо на англійську мову. Я хочу, I would like today to present you Antonio Baia Reis. Am I right about your surname? Yeah, okay. So he is the head of research and development and innovation at the VC in Madrid. Antonio also the university professor and holds PhD in digital media and immersive art. So Antonio, thank you for joining me today. And I want to discuss the topic of great importance to us today. It's interacting with a different cultural group following the full-scale invasion by Russia. Many Ukrainian companies have increasingly focused on Western European and US markets. So we encounter numerous challenges, especially in terms of the cross-cultural interaction. So let's start from the anthropology of the XR solution, so the cultural, social, and the human aspects of how immersive tech are adopted, used, and integrated into the various societies. So what is the different approaches for XR technology in different regions, especially like Eastern and Western part. So I'm passing the floor to Antonio.
Maria, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for this kind invitation. I was very fortunate to have met Maria a few months ago. Right? Was it a few months ago? Yeah.
No, it was November.
Yeah, it's the problem with Spain and Portugal. We drink a little bit too much wine, so sometimes we forget about dates. We
have
conference.
everybody hear properly, or there is like sound effect with the microphone?
There are
Yeah.
echo.
Discussing like from time to time. So, and the sound is like from the barrel.
Let me see. It might be. Let me see if I can. If you can fix it. When I want to, make it fancy and use external mics, and sometimes it doesn't. It's not worth it. Just give me 1 second, and I'll do my best to see if I can make it better. Just 1 second. But it's only the sound. The connection is okay, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Only the sound. Yes. What about now? Is it better? Does it sound better now? Yeah.
Way more better. Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So as I was saying, I've met Maria a few months ago at the AWE XR conference in Vienna, and we sort of intellectually and creatively kind of clicked, and so we sort of follow up each other's work so far. So it was really nice and kind of her and all of you to invite me to be here today. In terms of what I can share with you, I am not able to share any kind of absolute truths or philosophical treatise whatsoever. I can only speak from my experience and my perception of the market and what I've been doing in the past few years, specifically with emerging technologies and more specifically with immersive media. And so going straight to your first inquisition, Maria, regarding this idea of the anthropology of XR, I would say that this is fundamental. So I will try to, first of all, try to bring my perspective conceptually in terms why I think this is fundamental. I think it's fundamental because we are moving from hype to hype from new technology to new technology. And I'm feeling, and this is a feeling not just emotional and individual, but I'm feeling as I'm feeling the market, and mostly because, you know, I'm in Madrid, and Madrid is quite an interesting epicenter of the XR ecosystem in the peninsula, because I'm also from Portugal. So I'm able to kind of have this perception of the entire Iberia and beyond. And so what I'm feeling is that we are getting too crazy with each type, with each technology, and ever more a critical perspective is at hand. What do I mean about this? Let me give you the example of two ecosystems where I work with. So I'm kind of this crazy schizophrenic hybrid working in the industry, but also working in academia. The good thing about academia is that academia is not as savage as the market. So the market, it's all about return of investment. Let's have no doubts about that. We can have, obviously, a company or a service or a solution that is ethically sustainable, that abides all the, all the ethic rules, that is concerned with this or that. But by the end of the day, we create something that we want to monetize, and it's part of the game. And the good thing about academia is that academia still has the luxury of just being able, academics, to spend time just thinking about stuff without thinking that's going to make any kind of profit. And what I mean is that I try to bring the academic to the market world, to the real savage world. And what I'm feeling is that we are losing every day the human-centric nature that has to be, at the base of every kind of thing we do as innovators, as business people, especially with emergent technologies. I don't know about you guys, but what I'm feeling is that virtual reality kind of died in the 90s. Then we have this resurgence in the early 2010s with 360 video. Then we move to more refined VR glasses. Then there's a big hype around VR. And there's especially a big hype only with a few early adopters, with a few innovators. The market wasn't ready. I believe it's not ready yet, at least to be massive. Then we have the hype of the metaverse. Then suddenly the metaverse is going to die. Then not so necessarily not that. Then we have the hype of spatial computing. Then we have to put that together with more buzzwords. So now, working in XR has to entail working with crypto bros, with blockchain, with Web3, Web4, Web5, with AI, with integrating all of this. And the rush is so crazy that a solution that we are being working for, let's say, 1 year is outdated now. I see this. I give a very specific example. I was the director of a master's degree at Complutense University in Madrid, one of the biggest public universities in Spain. And 2 years ago, this master's degree name was Master in VR and AR. The year after, it was Master in VR, AR, and Metaverse. And this year, I'm not the director anymore because it got too crazy, off the record comment. Now it's Master in Spatial, immersive, whatever. So it's just too crazy. What I'm saying is that obviously, as business people and people that have solutions, and we have to be, attentive to the market. We have to adapt. We cannot just ignore artificial intelligence just because we are very passionate about 360 video and we have this workflow. But being critical means that do not forget why we are developing these solutions. We are developing the solutions for people. And this might sound easy, but it's about, being centered at this perspective. So I would say that two things I would say to tackle this idea of anthropology. Don't forget this is human-centered. And so XR innovation is all about human interaction. From low end to high end, very complex ones. What I'm saying is that there are certain things that still make sense just with immersive sound for some solutions. And there are others that make sense with mixed reality embedded with AI. And then comparing the two macro regions, let's put it that way, the Eastern and the Western, I don't have a lot of experience with Eastern Europe. but I have a few experience, for example, with the Asian market. And what I'm seeing is this huge difference from in terms of mindset, in terms of perception from one off to another. So we kind of know in Western Europe that they're going crazy in China and in Korea. There's a big market because there's a lot of pop culture around XR and VR and augmented reality. And at least what I'm seeing in Spain, in Portugal, in France, in Germany, is that the XR market is still very focused on enterprise solutions. There's also a few stuff on entertainment, on immersive experiences, but then again, it's very focused on going to the film festivals and just presenting some interesting storytelling. But the real solutions are still to be defined actually in the Western market. And you see this if you talk with people, I consult big companies, and usually what they ask me in Western Europe is, "Oh, we want to do something with you." This was 2 years ago, and I was like, "Okay, what should we do in VR? What do you want to do in VR with the company?" "I want to create a digital twin of our stand when we go to tech expos." "Okay, so why do you want to have a digital twin of the exact stand you're going to be using in that expo?" "Oh, because people want to see, the hype around VR glasses." "Sure, but why not using real people? They had a shower, they smell nice. Why not using real people?" But if you ask me to do something distinct that's going to be complementary to that, what I'm saying is that you want to make people fly, make people experience something that's not a replica of what you already have, but that it's something that it's native to the medium, then let's talk about it. We can come up with solutions. So I would say, yeah, I will shift there. I don't want, if you want to follow up, then otherwise I'll go freestyle. I also want to hear from the community as well. Yeah.
So I have a few questions. So do you see like the trends, the different trends between like Western and Eastern part? And as I remember, you've been doing the project in Czechia, in Czech Republic. Yes. What do you think like was different from the perception of the VR?
Okay, so in terms of perception, I think here's something I tell my students. Usually I tell my students when they think that VR is coming or that AI is coming, I'm not going to say it's not coming. Obviously, it's going to be part of our lives in the same way that smartphone is part of our lives now. It's an extension, and almost like an organic extension of our homes. But I don't see overall, worldwide perspective, that XR technologies are something to be institutionalized in the big markets. There are some projections, there are some economic speculations, obviously, and people like us also, profit from the speculation. With the hype of spatial computing, some big companies and some investors, get ticklish and they say, "Oh, is this the next big thing? Let's do something with spatial computing." They don't know exactly what they want to do with spatial computing. And that's when they reach out to communities like ours, so that we can provide them a happening, something that could, be part of their strategy. What I see, the difference that I see is that what I was saying, what I tell my students is that if you think VR is being adopted worldwide, ask your friends, ask your close friends, and ask your family if they've tried virtual reality. This is quite common when people do, talks with big audiences. Raise your hand if you've tried VR. Of course, if we ask this on a top event, everyone's going to raise their hands. And so we have this mistaken perception that everyone knows what VR is. The common person, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, hasn't tried VR yet, doesn't know what a Google Cardboard is. So trying to explain to a big businessman that wants to invest in these areas, this is not just VR or mixed reality or augmented reality or AI, because this is so integrated now. There's such a huge workflow of different technologies that the first thing you have to understand, before is that the convergent mindset within the communities, you have to get out of the communities. You have to, reach out to other sectors in the market and get out of the people who know about VR, because it's like, I've worked with engineers all my life. Then I decided I have to work with different people. I've learned a lot from engineers. Now I need to learn about from other perspectives that going to bring, creative, thinking, lateral thinking to it. My perception is that I would say, for example, from the work I'm doing in Czech Republic, in Czechia, that most of the students I work with, and they were PhD students doing this project. This was a project with XR, AI, and contemporary dance. They haven't tried VR. There's not what they told me is that they don't have access to these technologies most of the times, and especially at universities. And also, it's really tricky to convince universities or associations or companies to buy these technologies because they don't understand what they're going to be using that for. Sometimes they are on a tight budget and they don't understand, for example, the need to buy some technology to just be experimental. But also in big capital cities like the one I'm living in, Madrid, you go to Paris, the common people, the market, the traditional market doesn't know about this. So when I'm asked to show an investor something, I really have to make them try something. I'm not going to prepare a presentation. I'm always going to have a demo, a short demo. Big C-level investors have a 1-minute demo that gives them the wow effect. Perhaps on us community, the XR community, we're not going to have the wow effect because we've been through a lot of experience. We have VR culture. We have XR culture. And what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that when you see someone inside VR chat, for example, you can understand the difference from someone who has been there for years or someone who's been there for 1 month. And usually you see that because people who are new to the medium, they put their hands in a weird way. So you see that they don't have that kind of organic knowing how to be in VR. So my perception, to wrap up the question, is that the traditional market doesn't know what this is all about. The Eastern market that I've worked with, the few projects, I feel that they know a little bit less, with all due respect. They know a little bit less than, for example, people in Spain or in Germany or in France. But then again, it's all about creating this idea of reaching out to people and really understanding that this solution is as tangible and feasible and valid as any kind of solution with any kind of other technology. Because the problem with XR today is that it's becoming too mediatized. And slowly what I'm feeling is that some C-level executives tell me, oh, you do the VR stuff, that VR funny thing. Well, so they don't see it as something like, we're going to use this new infrastructure technology to improve the company. Oh, we understand that. So they associate VR a lot with gaming, a lot with entertainment, and they don't see the specific opportunities that can arise with these technologies. And I'm talking about big stuff. I'm talking about the manufacturing industry, the new manufacturing paradigm, Industry 4.0. There can be a lot of infrastructural solutions with XR that can be implemented in factories, that can be implemented in workflows with human resources and, public services, working with museums, working with theaters, working with cultural institutions, working with sports. So it's all about understanding if it makes sense to use the medium in a specific market. So it's about reaching out and showing them what it is, not explaining to them what it is, because even us are not aware of everything as technology evolves. We're always outdated, unfortunately. I'll shush Maria.
It's okay. I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit more about the Spanish XR ecosystem, how it's shaped, and what is the public sector doing for implementation of the technology.
So the Spanish XR ecosystem, I think it's a flourishing one. I think I'm the proof of it because I've moved from Portugal to Spain. Yes.
It's again the problem with the sound.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Does it disconnect by itself or what?
No, now,
What
now,
about- No, it's okay.
uh, maybe when you're moving, it's the microphone is moving. And...
Let me do something. If you don't like me sound, I will not put the mic here. I'll put it here, not put it. Let's see. You want to know what this?
Worse. Maybe it's maybe it's better to like switch it off. And
Okay.
use it
I'll
because
make,
you
I'll make, camera. It's kind of okay, the camera. Let me see. Is this okay? It's not as intricate. Is it okay, this one?
yeah,
Yeah?
it's better.
Yeah? You can.
We hear you more clear.
Okay, beautiful. Sorry about that. I'm in Porto now, in Portugal. I'm visiting the family, so I'm a little bit more relaxed and slow. Okay. I appreciate I appreciate your patience. Amen. So let me tell you about the Spanish market. So I moved to Spain, so we kind of understood that there's something happening in Spain specifically. For example, the Portuguese sexual community and ecosystem is still very small. It's a small country, so I understand that there's not actually enough feed enough projects, and the market is very small. And in Spain, I was actually involved in this kind of initial stage where it boomed, when the XR, ecosystem boomed. So I would say that it started to flourish around 2013, 14. So we had like in the Spanish market, yeah, problems with sound. I'm muting your body language. Oh God. Okay, hold on. Let's do a computer one. This is gonna happen. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see.
I'm sorry.
What is it? Yeah, I'm sorry. What now? Yeah?
Oh,
Is it better?
yes.
Yeah, much better.
Oh God,
Yeah,
even
well.
Egor said it was much better. So how shitty was it before? I'm so terribly sorry. So all these fancy mics thinking I'm on TV. Okay, so let's use the good old one computer one. So 2013, 14, the Spanish market started kind to understand that there was potential in XR, mostly VR. The hype was around virtual reality specifically. And they had a few big key players. You didn't have a lot of like studios, small companies or projects. You had like 3 or 4 big players. I've actually a few years after I've worked with one of these big players called the Virtual Voyagers. I'm going to start name dropping so that you guys can have also some names or ideas. Then if you have any companies or people or sectors within the XR Spanish ecosystem that you would like to connect, you can reach out to me or Maria could connect us, and I'll do my best to connect you guys with key players, okay? So that we can actually profit after this talk. And so what I've understand was that, these big players like the Virtual Voyagers, they started to understand that there was potential in this. And when the hype, when the VR hype really hit the market in Spain, they were able to, do big projects with big brands that were wanting to have something in VR. Some were like more sustainable, critical approaches. Some were just like they wanted to do something in VR because everyone else was doing something else in VR. So you had like projects with Vodafone, with big companies. And so slowly, what started to appear were small studios, smaller companies, startups initially that actually became sustainable. And we all know that for a startup to stop being a startup, you have to have at least that 5 to 6 year milestone. There are other theories around it, but this I think it's kind of accepted as a kind of average number of years to say that they have become actually a company and quite established. And what happened was that the big players, stopped monopolizing the Spanish market, and we had these upcoming, or rising small studios. And the kind of work they were doing was super refined. And they were answering also a demand from the market concerning smaller companies that wanted to do something, but that couldn't afford to pay the big companies. And so these small studios were doing I would say they did a very interesting pioneer work in the past 8 to 9 years in Spain, because their initial mindset was very India-like, was very experimental, very artsy, and so they brought to the table, I would say, this freshness in terms of creativity, and they fine-tuned it with interesting, tangible, objective business approach. So they could offer solutions at a reasonable price that were very eye-end. And I would say now in the market, there are around 9 to 10 like medium range XR companies that are really doing interesting work. When I'm saying interesting work, is that they're working with other companies, with the public sector, with the cultural sector, with academia, with venture capital, with most of the big sectors at large. But they are also doing still some experimental work. They are still, doing research, trying to innovate in terms of workflow. And you can see that because that reflects in terms of the prizes they get in competitions, arts competitions, business competitions, innovation competitions. Today I was reading about this company I know very well called Deusens. Then I'll put all these names on a list and send you guys. And now they were presenting their project in London. So they are growing very fast, which is interesting. So in terms of, I would say in terms of the key players, you have 3 big ones and 10 to 11, let's say it, medium, small companies. They are doing very interesting, very diverse work. And they're not very competitive, because somehow each one of them, because all of them obviously offer a range of very general approaches and solutions in XR, but each one of them has their own kind of DNA, Some are very, they have a very specific expertise on immersive sound. Others are really good in interaction design for avatars. Others are really good with working with cultural heritage. So, and usually they come together in events, and it's not as competitive as, for example, in the US, which is pretty savage. But of course, they have reasonably good, competitive mindset in between them. So this is in terms of the companies. In terms of the community, there are very interesting communities, obviously, in the 2 big main cities. So Madrid, where I live and I'm based, and also Barcelona in the south. And also in smaller cities. So it's very interesting. There are like smaller cities in Spain that have a very interesting, booming XR ecosystem, like Valencia in the south as well. So beautiful sun and beautiful tapas, and also a lot of like smaller conferences and meetups. For my personal taste, those are the good ones. Obviously, I go to the big conferences and the big tech events and the big expos, but the ones that are juicy for me on a personal level are the ones where you get together like 15 to 20 people, and you can actually engage into a certain level of depth in terms of discussing and sharing ideas. And so then you have a few organizations, some more informal, some more formal. Obviously, you have Inmersiva XR, which is like the Spanish Association for Extended Realities. And I was actually involved in the foundation a few years ago. This association is brilliantly led by 2 businesswomen and 2 creative XR technologists, Vicky and Lorena. They are quite well known in the European XR ecosystem. They attend all the big events. They are part, for example, of Euromersive, the European Federation of XR Professionals. So these 2 women are sort of the 2 big faces, the 2 public relations of the XR Spanish ecosystem out there. And they're doing a really interesting job, because they are sort of connecting necessities, needs with key players, with people, even like students coming out from master's degrees or engineering degrees, with opportunities in the market. Then you have more artsy associations or collectives. I'm part of one of those. It's called CREA XR, and they're based in Matadero Cultural Center. It's one of the main Madrid cultural centers. And CREA XR is basically a meetup. So every Wednesday, every 15 days, we go there and we experiment something. Someone shares something, a new approach, a new workflow, a new piece of work. And And for me, the smaller ones are the best because curiously, the really good profiles of the XR ecosystem, they all go there because they want also to relax a bit. When we are in an informal setting, it's good to know. And you know that they're the good ones because usually they're Spanish, they're based in Spain, but they're working for the US with big salaries. So, and working in XR and, XR design and stuff like that. So I would say then, so yes, so Valencia, then you have Valladolid, which is also small up in the north city that also has like a booming, interesting XR ecosystem there. Zaragoza, which is nearby Madrid as well. And usually because these smaller studios kind of created that kind of local ecosystem. So so I've talked a little bit of the K players, the cities, the associations, there's others, okay? And in terms of the market needs, let's put it that way, perhaps, right, Maria, in terms of the Spanish ecosystem, what I'm seeing a lot is on the one side, so the Spanish traditional market knows nothing about XR, okay? But they know about being trendy. They love to be trendy. Spanish people love that, okay? And they love oh, yes, of course we do have VR stuff in our company. Yes, of course, some VR glasses with some experiences inside that, about our company. They don't know what it is, but they have it. So it's funny. So you have that kind of mindset. So it's like working for a social agenda, We give 1 million euros each year for this social project because it's part of a big company to do that. So you have that mindset. And usually it's easier for these studios and these, professionals, XR professionals to reach out to these companies. What I tell my students most of the time is that do not wait for the need to come to you. Have a look at the market, see where your skills might fit in specific companies. Reach out to them with a short proposal, like a 2-page proposal, stating that I have had a look at your company, and you could really benefit from this kind of XR approach. And if you're interested, perhaps we can have a quick meeting. I show you a 1-minute demo on the VR glasses, and we'll go from there. So it's about reaching, and so the kind of the Spanish mindset is very interested in people who have that kind of predisposition, to reach out to. They call it espabilado, which is like oh, this kid, it was good. He reached out to me, he was a bit noisy, but actually I like the way he dealt with it. So the Portuguese people, and I'm Portuguese, are more polite and kind of more restrained. Spanish people are more welcome to a less, let's say, formal approach. So you have a lot of solutions, smaller solutions. Companies are very permeable, Spanish companies, to smaller XR solutions. They don't want to invest a lot. But what is being invested a lot is in terms of public money. So being Spain part of Europe, obviously the XR ecosystem there is very attentive to European, money, what I call, so they also try to get money from there, but also on a national level, in the past 4 or 5 years, there are new financing ways and new grants and new ways to finance, creating proofs of concept, developing business plans around this. So there's an interest in the public sector. There's a huge interest in the museum sector, in the cultural and heritage sector, because it's a very old, very rich country. And for example, in the museum sector, they are just done with traditional AR experiences, at least, And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of getting. Do you want to get the audio, whatever? No, I don't want to get the audio. This it sounds like a this telephone from the 90s. It's funny, it's trendy and vintage, but so there's a lot of opportunities there in the education sector. Universities, private universities, public universities, they're very interested in creating new curriculum is arising. But this is not new. This has been happening for the past few years. New master's degrees related to this. But what I'm feeling, here's a off-the-record tip. For example, what is really a hot topic in Spain and in Europe in general, at least Western Europe, is this idea of leveraging what traditionally is called the micro credentials. I'm exploring this now because I got a tip from a full professor. Then I heard it again in a conference that I'm, putting the puzzle together. I was like, this is something that's coming up. And you probably, you guys could ask me, oh, okay, but micro credentials, they've been here for a few years. You go do some Google courses, you get a badge. The difference is that now they're getting institutionalized in the public universities and in private universities. And it's something that it's going beyond a badge from NVIDIA or a badge from Google. It is something that you get a badge from a big university. And it's something that you can get on what they call, I think it's called the European badge accreditation. There's like a name for it. There's a European thing where you can collect like a wallet, like a crypto wallet, where you collect your micro credential badges. And that in itself I would say it's juicy because it's a testament that you are really skilled on a very specific competence or skill or language or whatever. If you connect that with the need in the XR ecosystem to prove that you are skilled on specific vectors within the XR ecosystem, that's what's going to be differentiating everyone. Because, oh, I work with XR. Well, good. Everyone else is working with XR, so that's good. What exactly do you bring to the table that's different from the others? Okay. Oh, I work with, live VR, whatever. For example, I work a lot with performing arts. That's my kind of core as a researcher. So I'm part of the Ferryman Collective, this US-based live theater collective in VR. And that would be my core, I would say. Arts, performing arts, and XR. And so yeah, I don't know. So this is like an overview of the market, okay? I'm sorry, I talk too much, I'm disorganized.
Okay. It was extremely interesting. Maybe our colleagues have their questions. Guys, are you here?
It's okay.
So I can start with a question.
Yeah.
It is really nice overview of the scene in the Spain. And I'm interested specifically in my field, this real estate. Maybe you know.
Okay.
How is it in terms of real estate? Do you use in your market immersive technologies, or it is not yet ready? How it is?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your question. It's still very in the early days, I would say, in real estate in Spain. What basically you see is the good old traditional 360 video. Have a look at our beautiful apartment in Barrio de Salamanca in city center Madrid. But what I know is that the market and real estate, as you know, because you work in that sector, as you said, involves a lot of money. So knowing the Spanish mindset, they are open to innovative solutions. When I'm saying innovative solutions is different approaches from what everyone else is doing, which is basically 360 video, more or less interactive, for showing the the apartment or whatever you're trying to sell. I would suggest, for example, let's say you're interested in the Spanish market and that you want to propose something different for them to do. So the first thing I would do was obviously try to, map the market, the real estate market, and try to understand. And it's not difficult. You have like 4 to 5 big players, Remax and others, some more like luxury real estate, some more down to earth from students to middle class families. Understand that big market, do a little bit of online research, which is like going to the websites, trying to understand if these big players in the real estate market have some kind of immersive experience. You're going to bump into basically some 360-degree videos, some with more case and more resolution than others. And that's it. You're not going to see more than that. And so my suggestion and challenge for you would be, how can you give it a twist to that? What I'm saying is that, okay, so this is like theater going, when you buy a ticket to go to watch a theater piece, the experience starts not when you sit down and experience, it starts when you buy the ticket. When you buy the ticket on the day of the show, usually I have a shower, I dress up, get on the car, I go to the theater, I have a flute of champagne, a cheap one most of the times. And then I sit down, I see the show, I get out of the show, I drive again. Perhaps we say, hey, well, what about the show? Was it shitty? Yes, it was. Oh, it was wonderful, wasn't it? Yes. Then we go home and we go to sleep. That's the entire experience. So understanding what the entire experience is for someone, for example, I don't know if here's a big name. It's called Idealista. I'll send you this name as well. I'm going to write down this stuff and also these associations. So
I'm
Idealista,
everyday user of Idealista.
you're the Idealista. Okay. So Maria, you're a user. Okay. So you know, you've been there. So, you know, and you know that some of the apartments that appear there, some of the flats, some have 360 view, right? Some of them, very few ones. And usually it's the basic one, you know, you move from one room to another. So how can you change that? For example, in the US, they have these open houses and they serve food. Everyone loves a little bit of food, you know, so they serve food. Obviously, we're not going to be doing that. We're not yet in the crazy multi-sensory XR experiences. But what could you do with XR technology that goes beyond 360 video, or at least could enhance the 360 video experience? What I'm saying is that, for example, I'm going to be moving to Salamanca next year. I'm in Madrid. I'm going to be moving to a smaller city in Spain because I want a little bit more of slow living. Here's something people don't know when they try to rent a flat, you know? You have an open house, you go and visit a flat. Usually they're going to tell you everything is fine, right? Oh, look at this beautiful kitchen, just renewed, we just painted the air conditioning. What they don't tell you is that perhaps the tap from the toilet is not working. Perhaps I don't know. So these kind of things that the user wants to know. I'm not saying they're going to be, you know, showing the bad aspects about selling a flat. What I'm saying is that how can you move beyond 360-degree video? How can you make it different? How can you use, for example, mixed reality? How can you make it different? I don't know. Can you work with an interior designer to have like some real-time adaptive, decorative frameworks that you could, you know, put in front of people when they're seeing? I don't know. So I think it's more of a creative challenge, but in a business-wise, they're open to it. They are not aware of what it is. But my selling point would be, hey, I'm interested in thinking creatively. Do you have time to think creatively about different solutions? And what I don't want to do is 360-degree video because that's done already. I was like, oh, this is new, you know? I don't know. I'll shush. But it's a good question. There's money there, you know? So they could spend it a little bit on XR innovation instead of on just fancy clothes and I don't know. Thank you for your question.
Yes. Do you have any other questions, guys? So if not, I will ask one more questions, and the time is running out.
Okay.
So I have like tricky question. You're communicating with a lot of different people from the different countries. Have you noticed, and then maybe it was some like funny stories with the like cultural disconnection or cultural tricky moments with the Eastern Europeans?
Okay. I don't think I have any kind, at least on a personal level, I don't think I have. I wish I had more like anecdotes. You know, my background is international relations, so my major was in diplomacy. So I'm not the right person to make mistakes by default. So when I go to a new country, I try to understand a little bit more or talk with someone and try to understand what are the do's and don'ts. So I try to get a little bit ready. Obviously, then I forget about it in 5 minutes because I'm a little bit too crazy. And, you know, some things, you know, stuff can be a little bit, can go crazy sometimes.
Maybe
But
in this case, you have kind of the tips, like do's and don'ts for us when we communicating with the Europeans or whatever.
yeah, here's one thing I've learned from working with with Eastern Europe, I've learned something that I've learned, and I've understood, and I've experienced something that is very essential for me, which is work ethics and organization and structure. You know, crazy Mediterranean countries like Italy and Spain and Portugal, there's a lot of sun. Okay, there's a lot of sun. There's a lot of nice food, a lot of great cheap wine, and so we are usually more relaxed. That doesn't mean that we don't comply with rules or norms, or we're not organized. Like I don't arrive late for meetings if it's not that kind of perspective. But what I think would be interesting is the approach towards markets like Spain. France is a little bit different, and Germany as well, because then you have like very different mindsets. You know, I've worked as a professor in Germany. I have anecdotes from Germany, like when I was smoking, my colleagues at the university, we were all together outside and didn't talk. You know, I'm very talkative. And they were like, a colleague of mine said, you know, Antonio, when we're smoking a cigarette, sometimes we don't have to talk. I was like, okay. So they were just doing that, how's your day? And they're like, I was like, okay, for you, to you too, you know? So these are like the sensitive moments where you understand they appreciate silence, and silence is fundamental. What is music without silence, right? So I would say Spanish people appreciate a lot of organization, for example, or Portuguese or German, obviously, and French. I would say that what you bring is work ethics, and what you bring is this kind of a lot of technical expertise and a lot of skills. And I think that's the major thing, because there's a lot of people working in the XR community in Western countries that know shit, sorry about my language, about XR, because they did a short course of 2 or 3 weeks and they just put it on LinkedIn. They are XR developers or innovators or strategists or metaverse officers or whatever, and suddenly they know about it. So, and I think what you bring to the table, and the few people I've worked with Eastern countries, is this baseline, this fundamentals. You know about your stuff. You know that AI is going to come and we have to be critical about it. You know that VR is part of informatics engineering. You know that spatial computing is a field that doesn't come with Apple. It has like 20 to 30 years within academia, within prototyping. So I would say that kind of seriousness and work ethics, I think, is a great selling point. And it's not a selling point. I think it's part of your DNA. And then I would say be permeable to less informal approaches, because it's business are in Spain, they're decided during lunch. You have 2-hour lunch, then you have dessert. Hey, so where should we work together? Sure. About the lunch was great. Let's work together. Send my secretary, whatever, debrief this lunch, and then they work together. Then on the second meeting in the actual company, they go straight to the point. So I would say that would be, and just, just reach out, just connect, keeping your secrets close to your heart, keep it secret, Frodo, but without revealing it, but connect with the industry. Try to see if they're like online forums where you can connect with these people. The best way to find opportunities in the Western countries is to really know someone that needs this kind of solution, and people usually reach out to their closest kind of circle. This happens every day. So if you're part of the ecosystem, or if people know that you're part of the ecosystem, they'll reach out to you. I would say that there are many more like nuanced aspects about it, but yeah, I would say that would be it. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for your insightful
Thank you,
speech.
Maria. Thank you guys for the
Yes,
patience.
I was extremely happy to have you here for our community. If there is no questions, I would like to say one more time, thank you and bye-bye. And of course, we will share all the information that you will send us. And if you need, I can connect with Antonio if you have questions or ideas. So,
Absolutely, reach out, reach out.
Antonio,
yeah.
thank you.
Maria,
Thank you, Antonio.
matter,
Yes,
matter of fact,
yes,
I have one question, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
of
Hey
course.
there.
So
Sure.
I have a question regarding market demand now, and
Mm.
like what specific products are in demand now, because for example, my studio, we created AR filters for 5 years, but
I know.
then the demand decreased a lot in terms of AR filters, so we switched to different products, and I'm wondering, like, what trends do you see in terms of market demand, in terms of what clients are seeking right now, in terms of industries as well? Like, is it more like fashion, automotive, like beauty, etc.? Anything you can share would be very valuable. Thank you.
Hi there. Lovely. We tried to connect, I think, in AWE, right? Because we've talked before, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We were talking before, so
We will
yeah.
connect. We will connect, definitely. If not earlier, in Vienna, if you're going to Vienna this year. And Maria, you have to come to Vienna, obviously. You have to have another beautiful dinner.
Easy. 40 minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to give you as much information as possible. What I'm seeing now in the markets closest to my reach, which is mainly the Spanish, a little bit of the French, the Portuguese, and a bit the German one, it's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of the projects that are being done, for example, in Spain, are a lot of projects that are being financed by European funds, which is good in on the one side, which is bad on the other side. And I think this is probably not new to you, what I'm going to say, and this is pretty much related with all of this hype around the next big things. So I would say, not unfortunately, it's part of the process, I guess, as we develop. AI is the hot topic now. So what I'm seeing now, for example, in the market is that people working with XR, they always mention in their solutions an integration with AI. Because now the selling point is, I do XR, I do immersive media, this and that, integrated with AI. We have a workflow that, blah, blah, blah. Because that is the only way to sell some XR solutions right now in the market. If it was like 4 years ago, I would say that VR, even VR specifically, would speak for itself. So what I'm saying is there's not a lot of investment specifically in your area, or at least that I know from. But I would suggest, if you're up to try to understand some opportunities, for example, in the Spanish market, to see if there's a possibility of being part of bigger projects. What I'm saying is that, for example, and giving you an example that comes from academia, there are some consortiums that are, put together with 2 or 3 universities and 2 or 3 stakeholders from the private sector. This could be a company, this could be a studio, a creative studio. And usually what it happens that because there's not direct investment, the full cake from companies, or in specific areas like yours, I'm not seeing a lot. I'm seeing a lot what I said before in terms of heritage. Perhaps you, and I saw some of your work, and you're highly creative, and I'm sure you can come up with a different twist in the same way. I don't know your name. It's Artem, right? Artem?
My name is Artem.
Artem. The way Artem might do with 360-degree video, I'm sure you can bring it to the next level in terms of the kind of work you did previously and kind of connected it with different areas. Heritage, the cultural sector, the art sector somehow is quite big right now. Oh, he's gone. No, you're still here?
It is
He's rushing to get all the big
Dmitry,
opportunities in space.
for some reason gone, but
But
maybe
that's okay. But I think
No,
he,
no, no,
he
I
kind of
think it's
understood.
internet issues.
yeah, that also seems fair.
That's fine. That's fine. It was
No,
so
no.
impacting what I was saying. It had so much meaning. It affected the internet. But whatever. I'm in touch with him. I can follow up with him. No worries.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Natalia, you wanted to ask something, or I?
No. I would like to ask. Yes. Only thank you so much for sharing your vision and your opinion, how immersive technology will develop, and that you recommended your solutions to us. Thank you so much, Antonio.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for the patience. Okay.